appreciate you getting back to me so quick. Kind of a layout of what we'd like to do is kind of set ground rules, expectations. Of course, the introductions, what we'll do is give you up to 5 minutes for an opening, if you'd like to. And then we'll get into kind of the questions and answers, and it'll range from, you know, perhaps what you filled out on your questionnaire, which we appreciate you taking the time out to do that.
Wish I probably should have brought me a copy of that there so you can refresh my memory.
Yeah, and I marked on mine. Do you have an extra?
Yeah, I can get you a copy here.
Okay. And then,
They all came from the heart, so I'm not really sure. Still be nice to refresh it.
Go ahead, I'll do
Yeah. You can never seem to say the same words that you write when you're thinking it.
That's right.
Yeah, like I read over it, and I said, man, did I write that quick? you just turn it out and.
Yeah. And so what we'll do is have about 30 minutes worth of questions, and I put down on their answers 2 minutes. That's cumulative 30 minutes of questions, but it's not 2 minutes worth of answers. So you get.
I'm not very long-winded, so
you get up to.
I'm
2
just
minutes.
hoping I can answer the questions the way y'all want them answered.
Okay.
You know, this is totally new to me, as I said. This is a totally different surrounding that I'm used to. So wouldn't say I wouldn't be nervous. So you know,
It's to be expected. So it's human nature. And then right at the end, we allow, you know, the candidates to give up to 5 minutes closing, and both got a timer over there and a timer here, so in case one breaks down, and he's usually watching the whole time, and I'll try to keep up with the incremental times. So
pretty simple-minded. So I don't have a large verse of words usually.
well, we'll give. Find anything?
I'll get it.
You warming up?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, go ahead if you like to start on your opening, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak to you guys. I've always looked at the Tea Party. I've always respected the Tea Party. Of course, you know, me working for the sheriff's office, we stay relatively busy out there. We work a lot of hours, we work a lot of extra. When I decided to do this, you know, I heard that Commissioner Ed Reinhardt was going to retire. I started looking at, you know, there was a few people that had signed up, and they weren't from my area, and I don't feel like they had the same values that I do. And growing up in that area, you know, I knew Ed Reinhardt before he got in. I knew the prior commissioners. I have grandchildren. I have 3 places over there. I felt it important, you know, being in the profession I am. I see the needs of the county out there. I'm out there amongst it every day. I probably hit about every road out there at one time or another and have a story to tell you about every road out there. I see the needs of the county. I'm always very conservative in my own personal life when it comes to spending and such. I just felt like it was strong, so I had first to make up the mind for myself, and then I had to get with the family. And you know, we got all on board and figured we would do this. Well, then after that, you start getting the supporters, and then if you start getting supporters and you start rolling along, you realize it's really not about you or your family at all. It's about the community. It's kind of eye-awakening. You see the needs, the concerns of the people, communications to people, the transparency that's needed out there. And since I've been going to Commissioner's Court and such, and my eyes have certainly been awakened by a lot of things that happen out there that I didn't even know existed before. I feel like I can be a valuable asset to those things by being, you know, putting the honesty, the loyalty, the integrity with the ethics, put it on a plate out there and give the people what they want. Spend the county's money like you would spend your own in a conservative manner. You don't want to do wasteful spending. You want to do what the people would want. As I explained on the questionnaire, you know, there's going to be some hard decisions to make. There's some questions that are asked on there that are, and it's not black and white. You cannot always do, you know, what you want to do. Sometimes you'll be back in the corner and have to do other things. It's important to me that you try to do your best to do what the people want you to do and have your beliefs. Don't compromise your beliefs, but do the best for the community. And I feel like that's a necessity, and that's one of the reasons I'm running out there. There's a lot of things I do care about out there. They have the Friendship Center and the youth and the ballparks, and we need more things for our youth. And we'll try to work on those, as well as I explained in there, you got a lot of things you're gonna have to keep up with when it comes to the roads and the ditches and the drainage, and explain to people you can't drain water uphill, especially out there in East County. We have a lot of low areas, and there's a lot to be done. And then you go back to Commissioner's Court, and there was some things done in the past, which I'm sure everybody's aware of, with the Joe Corley Detention Center and things. I'm not in totally agreement with the way everything went. We'll just have to work hard to correct those things, put it in the transparency of the county, and try to do better at what we need to do. There's no smoke and mirrors with me. I don't make promises that we're not going to keep. You know, I don't know of any promises that I've made. That you can only do what you can do. You can only do what's available to you to do. And you don't go out there and make promises to people that you cannot keep, other than maintain your honesty and your ethics, and with your loyalty and honesty. And that's about all I can do, is give that wholeheartedly and give the community the best effort forward. And that's about it in a nutshell.
All right, okay. Great. What we'll do now at this point is just go around the table with the various committee members and ask questions. And last time we started with Brian, so Ken, if you want to go first.
Sure. What are the top 3 areas, do you think, in the county budget that need to be adjusted?
The top 3 areas that need to be adjusted? Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I go to the Commissioner's Court and I see some of the things that they do. I cannot sit there and tell you 1,000% that I know what all the budgets and things are. The things that I do see is public safety, of course, is going to be put on the top of the platter, because everybody wants to be safe in their houses and their families and out here in their community. I do know that we ran on a strict budget this year, from what I saw when people wanting personnel, and I saw many of them get cut off at the knees. You can only do so much with the budget that we have at hand. I do feel like one of the biggest things is the jail. You know, we have an overcrowding issue in the jail that is going to have to be adjusted. I don't have all the answers to that right now, but we will have to create something to expand that jail, else we're going to be in trouble with the state, and we certainly don't want to be letting the criminals out on top of us. The other items are, you have the roads and items that I see deteriorating. We're going to have to find ways to adjust to take care of those roads and such also. As far as the county services do, you want to keep that as streamlined as you can to get the best for our dollar for the people. They're going to have to work. When we come to work at the county, just like we do as a sheriff's office, you have to work for your dollar. As far as actually adjusting the budget, I guess someone would have to really get in there and analyze it. They already have the budget set up, and I'm sure that you would pull from one and give to the other accordingly when you get into that office to see where the adjustments need to be made. I do know the jail needs to be taken care of. I do know that we do have some road issues and stuff that eventually will have to be addressed. And over in Precinct 4, we have tremendous growth coming, and I'm not exactly sure how we're going to keep up with that, but we're going to have to work something out. Hopefully we'll get a tax base as we grow and be able to go into that to take care of that infrastructure and those roads that need to be tended to.
All right. You've been in law enforcement for, forget what, 15 or 18 years?
About 23 years.
23 years.
Yes, sir.
In that enforcement, were you sheriff's department the whole time? And
Montgomery County Sheriff's Office the entire law enforcement career, yes, sir.
did you have any people under you, or management?
Yes, sir. I'm currently a sergeant with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. We run a shift. You know, I probably have I think it's six people underneath me plus a swing, and then there's times we'll have to go all over the county because I'm in patrol. So it just depends if other supervisors are available. I have other outer agencies that sometimes come to me and they need our help also. It just depends on the day and how many people are on duty that time. where there's supervisors in other districts. I may wind up having to go to Magnolia in exigent circumstances, which I've had to do. You just have to handle the task at hand. And they do like to now, I know Captain Pullen's there, he likes to keep a minimum of 4 supervisors on for the entire county. Because the sergeants are the main management over the sheriff's office out there on the street.
The, kind of the second part of the question, in what, in the sheriff's department, what have you done that would give you business experience, you know, doing budgets and all
Other than
the
working
things
with the lieutenant and such on budgetary items that we need, you know, like you have to account for what paper you use, what materials you use, what equipment we may use. You know, give us certain things that we need to budget for each year. As far as the actual hands-on budgeting of those items, I cannot sit here and attest that I've done that before. You know, only in my own life, you know, through my life I've worked and we've acquired, you know, properties and things like that. And we've always budgeted our own family life. I would like to pride myself, I've never written a check that I couldn't cover. We've always paid our credit, and I think I have outstanding credit. And I think that attests to a lot of good budgeting there. As far as actually business with the sheriff's office, I don't actually do hands-on budgeting with that.
Okay. John?
Okay, one of the questions in the questionnaire, and I'm sorry I don't have a page number for you, but it appears to be number 3, is what do you consider obligatory as it applies to the 1971 Texas Certificate of Obligation?
Yes, sir, I wasn't sure of that question. You said, what do you consider obligatory?
Mm-hmm. Do you know what a CO is?
Basically, it's basically a bond, rather than going through the voters, you know, they create it through the commissioner's court.
Right, right.
And so I wasn't exactly sure of the question that you were asking.
Okay, let me try to simplify it a little bit. What are your thoughts about using those? When should they be used?
Well, as I explained in the questionnaire, you know, I don't feel like that we should just go out and issue COs just so we'll have money on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we'll sit there, once again, I'm not gonna make promises that I won't keep, because there's absolutely no way that you would sit there and say you wouldn't create a CO. I mean, what if you had an exigent circumstance or something and we had to have these funds available or whatever? I know that they brought that up Commissioner's Court. I think Mike Metter said we usually use COs to cover these things, such as the jail and such. I think that should be more put out to the voters and such.
So what are the things that would be emergencies or whatever that
Well, if
would
it comes
vote
down
for?
to it, I guess you could probably say, you know, like for instance, the jail expansion, you know, right now I think that we do have funds available. I think they set back like $13 million, I believe, you know, out of the sale of the Joe Corley Detention Center. But if something were to happen to those funds and we got put in a bind, you may have to use something of that nature. In addition, you may have some roads that you had, maybe something happened to them or such, and we didn't have the monies available, and you would have to use a CO for something of that nature. I know currently right now they're using COs to reclaim and surface many roads in Precinct 4 as this year. Matter of fact, the I guess it'd be 2012, 2013, I think they went over about 24 miles of road using those COs. Well, if we didn't have those COs, I'm not sure how they would do those. But once again, I would rather go back to the voters. I like to be transparent. I would like to see the voters have more of an input on the budgetary, on our bonds and stuff. You would like to see that come out of the actual budget. But once again, if you don't have the monies available, you have to get them from somewhere.
Well, there was a commissioner that, short question. There was a commissioner that went out to buy property as an extension of a major thoroughfare to connect it to another major thoroughfare. Do you think that's a good use of COs?
Once again, without knowing those particular circumstances, I'm not sure if that benefits the county in a mobility plan, because I'm not aware of what you're talking about. As far as using a CO to do that, no, I would say absolutely not. I mean, now I see your question with a CO. No, I don't think that would be appropriate to use a CO for. No, I do not.
Okay.
In your
I see where you went with that. So yeah, I understand that 100%. I wouldn't call it an exigent circumstance.
So in your questionnaire, you said, the question was, in light of the increasing property values, would you vote to decrease property tax? And your answer, the way I read it, was basically common sense. You basically said, okay, we're not really wasting money. The county's not wasting money. So you don't see, with all the expansion going on, any way to cut money. So from a, do you view that the tax rate with all forms of government, including the county government, is that going up? Is the percentage of money taking out of the average person, is that growing percentage-wise? Not the dollar. The dollar amount is kind of, with inflation, that's going to change. But the percentage, do you feel that that amount the government is taking is increasing or maintaining the same?
Well, apparently our budget did go up this year somewhat, so, with the raises of the county employees and the expansion of all the county services, additions to the county attorney's office, the district attorney's office, of course, your budget has increased.
But the question is, not as increased, we all know it's increased because you look at the numbers. The question is the bite out of the average taxpayer's pocketbook, is that the same percentage or is it increasing? Has it been increasing over the last 20 years?
You're talking about the evaluations of the property?
Nope.
I'm not sure what the question is.
So if somebody makes $100,000,
Yes, sir.
and county city services were taking $8,000 of their annual money,
Yes, sir.
is it still 8%? Even though now they're making $150,000 and it's 8% of that, or is that percentage, overall percentage, growing or decreasing or maintaining?
I think the percentage has grown. I think that as the tax values, they're increasing the tax values on our properties, and notice that being pretty significant. I've heard of a lot of significant increases in the values of people's property, which therefore develops into larger taxes. I'm not sure what the extent of the reasoning behind that. Once again, I'm not in that office, so I might be giving you a bad answer because I don't know the answer to that. I read the question on the questionnaire is I know when I went to the budget hearings and watching what I did see, the way they didn't give people what they wanted, and they streamlined that budget to what I saw. Once again, I'm not in the office, but from what I viewed, and if it's as tight as they said that it was in the commissioner's court, and you don't have the funds available, I don't see how you could do a tax decrease to give it back if we didn't have the extra to take care of what we needed to take care of. And that's what I answered on the questionnaire.
Well, and okay, I understand that. So there's this push and shove, right? So my view is the taxpayer is getting shoved into a corner, and more and more of his money is being taken from them.
Yes, sir.
And where does that resolve itself? Because you can only squeeze a turnip so much.
Well, a person's going to get in that office and really analyze where our spending is, and really go over it with a fine-tooth comb, and figure out if we can streamline any of that spending and get it down.
Well, you already said there's no waste. I mean, you said we're running on a solid base with no wasteful spending, but yet the money.
That's what I viewed at Commissioner's Court, but I'm not within looking at it. If I was within looking at it, I would hope that you would be able to find some extra somewhere and be able to streamline that and find the wasteful spending. Find if you have unnecessary spending that you could eliminate, such as maybe employees that are not putting out to their production, or are they buying equipment that we don't need, or are we going on trips or something that they don't need to take. You'll have to analyze that and be on the inside to find out more about that, where those spending are, and analyze each line item. Now, whether it's there or whether it's not, I can't accurately answer that.
So Magnolia spent $5 million on a fire station in Magnolia. It didn't go to the voters. So five commissioners on ESD, I believe 10, voted that in with no voter input at all.
A $5 million fire
$5 million
station.
debt.
See, that's something that, I'm not aware of that, and I don't see why a fire station would cost $5 million. And that include the equipment and the whole works?
including the exercise equipment and everything.
$5 million.
So I mean, you know, that's, to me, it was way more than, it was Taj Mahal. And we have,
I
in
don't,
my
I
mind,
don't
we
think,
have,
I don't think we need such as that in extravagancies. I think we need what is adequate to serve the citizens of the county. I don't think we should over embellish in the items that we get, you know, just to look good. As I said though, in that, I mean, at the same token, without analyzing those type of things and being able to have a say so from the inside, I don't see I can accurately answer you with.
hey, I'm not on the inside, and I can see it, so I'm not sure why it's so
Well, I
hard
mean,
to
no,
see.
I'm talking about, I don't have a, you know, I didn't know there was a $5 million fire station in Magnolia,
Okay.
you know.
We got a more expensive one in the Woodlands.
Yeah.
What's your position on toll roads?
I don't really like toll roads. I'm guessing that because of the tax dollars being as limited as they are, I guess that they've come down to doing these toll roads. I feel like, you know, with all the taxes and stuff we pay, we should be able to, you know, get our roads built and without the, you know, without having toll roads. But at the same token, I guess when they can't seem to come up with the funds for whatever reason to do those, I guess that that's their last option and they do those. I don't like toll roads. I don't think we should have to pay for something that we already paid our road and bridge taxes to pay for. And then when every time I go on the toll road and I see all these thousands and thousands of people going through them, and knowing that that toll probably will never go away, and then we create more, and they're becoming more and more toll roads as we go through time. And I'm just not a big toll road person. Now, perhaps if I got on the other side and somebody could really describe to me the reason that we have to have those, I can't sit here and promise you I will never change my mind on that, but right now I'm not into toll roads. I would rather have the roads provided by the state or by the federal government or by our county, because I don't feel like we should have to tax to drive on our own roads that we pay for in the first place. I just don't agree with that.
Okay. What is your understanding of how the court takes the money and divvies it up to each precinct? Is it done by each precinct's need, or is it divided up equally, or what's your understanding of that? And then second part of that is the Woodlands has the most population, so how would you change it to make it more equitable, or should it be the precinct got the most people gets the most money?
I'm not sure if it should be the precinct with the most people that get the most money. I think it's gonna have to evaluate, such as the Woodlands. I know the Woodlands Township and stuff pays for a lot of their items, therefore Precinct 3 is not responsible for as many roads and bridges and services as other areas of the county. Now, without knowing what their needs and services are that aren't covered by the township and stuff, it would be impossible for me to say where they should deserve a lesser share than up around Willis or Precinct 4 or Magnolia. I'm not even exactly sure, to be quite honest with you, how that money is divvied up. I think it was divided up fairly equally, if I'm not mistaken. But seeing that in mind, I think that if the area is more rural and not having the improvement districts or the townships or whatever taking care of them, I think you're going to have to direct that money where it's more needed rather than create more wasteful spending in one area and person lacks the needs of what is required in another. So I'm not sure if that should be equally divided up. I think it should go where the needs of the county are to cover the cost that is necessity.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. On, back to the question there, one of the questions was, do you support the granting of public dollars for economic development in areas that are not economically disadvantaged? Your answer was, paraphrasing here, if the situation is fully examined and analyzed, and supporting such will be a win-win for the county, this may be applicable. Can you expound on that?
Well, the reason that I brought that up, I believe, is they just had that go through Commissioner's Court. I believe it was, they call it tiers or whatever it is, right here at the Camp Straight. When I first heard about that, I wasn't in total agreement with that, but I had an opportunity to talk to J.R. Moore, and I think that is a very sharp individual. He's been, you know, within that position for many, many years, and after him explaining it to me, that we took a piece of land that was tax exempt, which the county is getting no funds on whatsoever, that we can turn it around in a tax windfall in a few years, I would agree in that type of aspect. Now, if it meant that the county just simply gave money like they were talking about and they wanted interest on their money and such, no, I would never agree with that. I would never agree with anything that's gonna cost the taxpayers money to develop an area for a developer or anybody for their personal means that comes out of tax dollars. I don't agree with that at all. However, when you take a piece of land that's tax exempt or agri exempt, and we can change that to where it will be income for the county and a better development for a better quality of life, I would say it'd be a circumstance to consider.
How about the extension of the Conroe Airport runway? Is that a good use of taxpayer funds?
Well, I'm not sure what their long-term plans are for that, so it'd be really hard for me to answer that, to go with that. I'm not sure of what that entailed. I don't have the details of that, so I can't accurately answer that.
Well, I mean, using public funds for that situation.
If we use public funds
to increase business.
if we use public funds for the betterment of individuals, for individual businesses or such, I would totally disagree with that. However, if we use public funds that would increase the business, which eventually will turn over to increase the tax base for the county and betterment for the county, then I would consider it.
10 minutes
It has to be able to benefit the county.
Okay.
10 minutes left.
10 minutes, right.
So, in the area of funding government, what are the better ways to fund government, and what are, you got sales tax, you got property tax, you got user fees, you got toll roads. What is, you got a mix, you got income taxes. What are the better ways for the county to do it, and why? Why is that way better than another? And let me give you a little, okay, so there's a push by some people in the last 2 or 3 years to get away with the property tax. And so what they say is they'd rather do a sales tax, increase the sales tax, state sales tax, so that we can get rid of or reduce the property tax. So I'm just getting your thoughts on the pros and cons, if you've even thought about that kind of stuff. Maybe you haven't. And
To be quite honest with you, I have not thought about that. I mean, we've had property taxes for as long as I've been born. I think that it can work with property taxes as long as it's managed properly. I think through over the years, you know, some certain people probably have padded their pockets where they probably shouldn't have. I think they've gotten away with from the transparency of letting the citizens see where we're spending and do it for the betterment of the community. I think sales taxes, and to a certain extent, sales taxes are good, but at the same token, you have, you know, our East Montgomery County Improvement District, they had the sales tax, and as we know, that money wasn't always spent to the best interest of the county. I don't really think sales tax is the way to go. I think the property taxes is probably the best way to go, but we need to carefully watch how we're spending those monies and get a better handle on it. I don't really see, you know, without getting in there, I'm relatively new to this government and the taxation and stuff. I know what I've always had to pay. So I said, we have 3 properties. I know that my taxes are certainly high enough. I know our New Caney ISD tax just went up. And yeah, a person gets rather tired of taxes. And of course, nobody wants to pay taxes, but you know, it's just one of those things in life you have to do. But I certainly think that we need to manage and watch how we spend our dollars.
Yep.
What do you think the role of religion or morals should be in politics?
I think God should be a part of everything we do. It doesn't really matter what religion you are, as long as you have a belief in God. You know, God has always been the base of everything that we should do. And if you're going to be in politics, that's why your morals should certainly be of a higher standard. You should be able to rest your head at night knowing that you did the right thing and what God would have wanted you to do that day. I'm not saying that everybody should be a preacher. I'm not saying that everybody should go out there and have to attend church every Sunday. But I do know that when you have values and you believe in God and you believe in what He's done for us or what He wants you to do, then that will come out in the wash, and you will eventually you'll do the right thing, because you know He's up there watching you in everything that we do. And there's none of us in this room perfect, and I'm not claiming to be perfect. But you should always base your thoughts and such with God, and there's always freedom of religion, whatever your belief may be.
You've mentioned several times that transparency is very important. How would you improve the transparency of the Commissioners Court?
Well, I know in the past they've, once again, being relatively new to this in the last several months, I know they had a jail finance committee that they did away with. I don't know why we had a jail finance committee in the first place. I think the taxpayers need to be seeing where our monies are spent. I don't think there's any hidden agenda there. What we do with the taxpayers' money, I mean, it's our money. We should certainly know where it's going.
I guess, should there be a budget published in the newspaper, or how would you get the transparency to the people?
Well, the budget is available now. All you gotta do is go to the Montgomery County website, and you can get the budget. I mean, so that's already out there. So I don't, if they wanted to get out there and look at it and analyze it, I mean, it's rather large.
What about checkbook, checks being written? Should that be transparent?
Depending on, I mean, as long as everything should be transparent if it's being our county tax dollars spent. I mean, there should be no secrets to that. I don't know exactly, if there's for instance, that you're referring to, but if you're spending the money out of your budget, I mean, I certainly think that should be out for the public to see. I mean, I don't think there's a hidden agenda there.
Right. Okay, 5 more minutes.
What, sorry, technical difficulties
That's okay.
here between the chair and iPhone. How much of a problem is county hiring based on a good old boy, loyal to leadership, instead of one's ability to efficiently and ethically perform their tasks and functions? You alluded to Ed Reinhardt before, and you had also alluded to some problems. Can you identify specifically what those problems have been, what happened, and how to prevent something like that from happening again, with all the commissioners that were involved?
Well, once again, I don't know, I know a little bit about, like the Joe Corley Detention Center and certain things that occurred. I can't sit here and tell you I know 100% in detail all it was. I know there was a lot of happenings that were not good. I know there were some ethical violations. The best thing I can tell you is as I told you before, I'm not here to defame anyone in what they've done. All I can tell you is you need to remain ethical with integrity of what you need to do in the future. If you're going to hire someone, I would certainly say that they need to be prepared and qualified to do the job at hand. And if they don't produce, then they don't need to be in that position. You don't need to do favoritism. You need to streamline to get the most productive people that you can do.
Okay. Brian?
So in your questionnaire, the way I'm reading it, it basically asks the 3 largest challenges facing the county. And I heard you, number 1 is roads, number 2 is tremendous growth, And number 3 is, you know, with the massive growth, okay, so safety. So, it seems like your bent on everything is probably safety, just from your background.
Public safety.
So, you know, the recent vote we had was, there was Proposition 6. So where does water fit into all that? Is water in the top issue? Is it not a top issue? Is it?
Well, I think water is definitely a concern. I mean, we need to have a surplus of water always available, especially in long term. You know, it goes well beyond the county when it becomes to water. I mean, it becomes involving the county. I think the state is more above us than the county. I know the county needs to partake in that also. We have Lake Conroe. I know the city of Houston has reserved much of those waters. Now, once again, me being relatively new to this field, I'm not exactly sure how all that works. I won't sit there and tell you I know all the ins and outs, but yeah, you always want to have clean drinking water available for our future.
Okay.
Time's up. You got one?
Sure. What's your position on red light cameras?
You know, red light cameras are not necessarily a bad thing. I don't like Big Brother watching me any more than the rest of the people do. Except being in law enforcement, the law is the law. And I would simply say that the voters would have that decision on that. And if 50.1% of the voters said they don't want red light cameras, then I would agree with that 1,000%. However, I know from myself, like going through the city of Humble, if you're going through there and you know there's a red light camera, by golly, you're going to stop at that red light because nobody wants to get a ticket. Now, do I agree with those? Probably not. But if it prevents accidents and allows people to do what they're supposed to be doing, then maybe that's not such a bad thing. But once again, you go back, is it for the income? Is it for the tickets? No. Except I would say totally on what the voters want in those instances. Do I agree with putting red light cameras out there where the voters do not want them? I don't think red light cameras should be anywhere around until the voters decide whether they want those or not.
Well, what if you have a community that are a bunch of lawbreakers and they don't want red light cameras, they don't want to pay tickets and stuff like that?
That's a democracy. If you got 50.1% of that community that does not want red light cameras in their area, then I guess they're not going to have red light cameras in that area, and I'm going to have to stand behind them on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as much as, you know, I would like, you know, to see the public safety be coming up, you know, as a priority on that, but, you know, that's what I'm saying, you know, I don't like red light cameras myself, you know, but is it about our wants or is it about our needs, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
We shouldn't be breaking the law. You know, those red light cameras, they don't care whether you're a police officer, whether you're the governor or who you are, they're gonna get you.
Do you think the statistics support something like that though? Does it?
I believe in the city of Houston, I believe they did studies on that, and I believe that it did support the use of those. But once again, do I like them? Probably not. That's what I said. I would want that to be a broadened deal posted by the voters to decide on red light cameras. I've thought about that. You know, I know that the problem the city had about that. I know that many communities had those, and it's never been presented to the voters, and I really don't understand that. I think the voters should be able to decide whether those are there or not.
Yeah, I think they installed in Precinct 3, and what were they costing, $40,000 a month or something, and Commissioner Nowak had them cut off. They had to go through Commissioner's Court, I believe, but they were summarily shut down.
Where they were issuing citations for them? See, I don't recall them issuing.
Yeah, they were, and it was strictly through the Ryan Gable's constable's office. He had to commit at least one constable almost full time to evaluating that, and they really didn't get any funds for it. A lot of the funds were going to the state, yet it was costing the county the money.
See, now I never ever, I don't guess that I was familiar with them having active red light cameras where citations were being issued. And me being in law enforcement, you would have thought that I would know that. Maybe that's my fault. I know that, you know, there's cameras on many, many intersections that they use to gauge, you know, for the mobility, for the traffic. As far as them actually issuing citations, I know they were in preparation for that. And they did that for TransStar to monitor the traffic, to be able to control those red lights for the mobility. But I don't believe that I ever knew them to be issuing, sending out citations for violators for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have. And it had to go through Precinct 3's constable's office. They were the ones that issued the tickets, and
Yeah,
Did
through
the
Ryan
fines.
Gable.
Well, I'll be.
it was costing, I think he said he had county office personnel, it was 4 people that it was costing him about, I forget now the figure, but he quoted the figure that was costing his department a month.
And he wasn't getting any income from the citations that were being issued.
No.
Well, that's certainly a
Yeah.
no-brainer right there, I would say.
All right, well, that's the time, guys.
Got time for one more?
Well, we can squeeze one in.
So,
If you don't mind.
I don't
Appreciate
mind.
you guys staying late.
They're
so,
on a roll.
so with the federal government imposing its will on people in an unpopular way,
I'm sorry?
so with the federal government imposing its will on the people in a unpopular way in many areas,
Yes, sir.
you know, really there's the states' rights issue, but states have to actually stand up for their rights. Enough, the federal government's going to walk all over, an out-of-control government's going to walk all over the lower government if the lower government allows it. So what are you willing to do as a county commissioner to prevent the federal government from, and what will you do?
Well, I guess, you know, that's gonna come down to the legal aspects. I mean, you can only do so much.
No, what will you do as a county commissioner? If the answer is nothing, that's fine, but I mean,
Well, you would have to go by whatever the laws would allow you to do. I mean, if they're gonna violate our constitutional rights, you're gonna stand up for that and you're gonna contest it. But if they're, you know, they're overpowering us, you know, just like this Obamacare and stuff, which I don't agree with. You know, we're fighting it, and where are we going with it? I mean, you can't do but so much within the will of the laws that you have available to you. You can take them to court and tie it up in the courts and such, but you're gonna have to do, you know, what's legitimately right for the citizens of your area. You know, like I'll give the sheriff credit on this. Let's take, for instance, the firearms, where they wanting to limit our firearms, the Second Amendment right. The sheriff stood up and put a letter on our website, and he said that his deputies will not participate in that. If it came down to something like that, I would stand behind that 1,000%. You know, they're not gonna take our weapons away from us. You know, I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, something of that nature. You know, when it comes down to violating our constitutional rights, something as that, we're not gonna go with it. And whatever I can do within my power to stop it, that's what I'll do.
okay, thanks. Yeah.
All right.
I'm good.
Anybody else? You good? Larry, good? All right. All right, well, that will conclude. That was question, and got some time for closing, so we'll turn it back over to you.
Just make a closing statement, you mean?
Yes, sir. And you do have 5 minutes.
You know, the best I can tell you is, you know, when I decided to do this, I'm not a politician. I don't intend to be a politician. As I told my constituents, you know, I'll work with the politicians. I'm not going to work for the politicians. I'm out there to do the right thing for the citizens of Precinct 4. I'm out there to do the right thing for Montgomery County. When I got into law enforcement, you know, 23 some odd years ago, you realize you can do really good by helping the people. And there are certain people that might be in law enforcement for the job, for their career, and that's, you know, they get a paycheck. But I consider it a lot more than that. I have citizens call me all the time with questions on and off duty, and it's my pleasure to help them. As you go through life, you realize there's much more things than than money and things of that nature. You have your friends and your acquaintances, and as we talked about earlier, you can lay your head down at night knowing you did the right thing. And that's what I'm all about. I'm not out to give people the smoke and mirrors of some image that I'm not. You know, I'm just out there to give them, as my slogan says, you know, I'm striving to protect the people of this county, which I do every day, and serve this community, which I intend to do one way or another, and care for the individual, the citizen, which would be all of us. And if you could keep all those three things in mind, all the rest of the stuff will fall in place. And that's what I'm here to do. I would love to see your support, you know, but as far as going out and twisting your faith and your ethics and changing things up the way you feel, you know, I would never intend to do that. You just got to stay on the right path and do the right thing. And I appreciate you all having me here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for running.
Thank you for coming, appreciate it. Appreciate
All
your
right.
time and short notice and again late. And,
No problem.
Guess that wraps it up. Okay.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, appreciate it, thanks for your service. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.